Having your moon in Cancer is one of the most moon placements you could ever have. It's one of the very best emotional placements you can ever have because the moon rules the sign of Cancer. So whenever the planet rules a specific sign and whenever that planet is at home in that placement, you're going to have skills that are greater than most people. As an example, Mercury rules communication, right? So if you happen to have your communication in a sign that is ruled by Mercury, such as Gemini or Virgo, your communication style is going to be greater than most people because it's a heightened level than most people, because the planet that rules your communication happens to be at home in the placement for communication, if that makes sense. So because the moon, which rules the moon signs in astrology, all the moon sign placements, because Cancer is ruled by the moon, Cancer is naturally going to be at home in the moon placement. Cancer moon is a sign that is very emotional, lots of tears for Cancer moon. Cancer moon is emotionally tough, but sometimes they get overwhelmed by the little things in life, and the little things can build up to big things for them, and then the big things can overwhelm them. So there's a lot of anxiety with Cancer moon, but there's also a lot of emotional instability because the moon is constantly in motion. So they could wake up in a great mood, and then 10 minutes later something happens. Now they're upset. And then an hour later, they're like hysterical where they're crying. Like Cancer moon is like the epitome of like feeling all of my emotions and being comfortable with it. Like, did you see that TikTok of that kid? Oh, you were diagnosed with anxiety about 4 years ago. Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety with this placement. I saw this TikTok of this kid who's like 2 years old or maybe 3, where he's like crying and his mom is like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm okay." And he's like trying to smile to the tears, like, "I'm okay." So he's like halfway smiling, halfway crying, halfway in distress. That's Cancer moon. Cancer moon is like all the feels. Sometimes all the feels all at once, and they don't know what to do with it. Cancer moon children typically are very close to their birth mother. Either that or they were very distant from her. So either way, there's like intense emotion about their birth mother. Either it's like this, where I think her and her are the same person and we're like besties and like I can read her mind, or it's like very, very distant. Either way, Cancer moon tend to have a lot of emotional instability in their childhood with like how their emotions were managed in the home. So a lot of times these children will be very close to their birth mother. Oh, so you're the opposite, distant from mother. Yeah, there's always trauma with the mother with Cancer moon. So it's either trauma from being distant or trauma from being too close, when it's worked in the negative, of course. So the trauma from being too close will look like she's always there. You feel like you can talk to her all the time. You feel like she's close, but she never truly gets you. Like she never really truly understands you, and you never feel like you can trust her with your feelings, even though she's always there. So it's like a physical presence that doesn't necessarily come with an emotional presence. So Cancer moon children typically have a great connection with their birth mother, almost like sometimes they feel like they just know what she needs. And they're very invested in making sure that they do things that make her feel good and make her feel comfortable. I've met Cancer moon even later in life that are still like the pillar of the family. So when there are things going on with like mom who's now older, the Cancer moon child would be like the go-to person for whatever's going on with mom, because everybody sees Cancer moon as being the one closest to mom, even though Cancer moon themselves may feel physically close to mom, but not emotionally close to mom. So Cancer moon oftentimes has a hard time communicating their feelings because from a young age, they couldn't openly talk about how they felt. So they feel a lot of things and they mainly pick up on all of mom's feelings and emotions, but there is no room in that relationship for them to open up emotionally. So Cancer moon children oftentimes go into adulthood feeling very desperate for some kind of validation, some kind of love, some kind of acceptance from the world, because they never really had that from mom, even though in certain cases they may feel very, very close to her physically. So a lot of times they don't even know what they feel because their feelings were never a priority. And I know it's confusing because they feel a lot of things, but oftentimes they can't really communicate what it is that they're feeling, because what the level at which they feel is so complex. Again, it is the most feelings placement that you can ever find. And if you're somebody who's really comfortable with your emotions, then you know that sometimes feelings can be complicated. You know, it's not all as straightforward as we would like to think that it is. You know, I could be angry with you while also feel sad for you. Like, those are two separate feelings that I could have about the same situation while I'm also loving you. So I could love you, be mad at you, and feel sad for you all in the same breath. These are all three very different emotions, but I could literally have all of those about you in this moment. Cancer Moon is never afraid to feel all of that. They're never afraid to laugh when they're crying. You know, they're never afraid to go there, like to let the emotions take them there all the way. You know, they're comfortable. They're the most comfortable zodiac sign in their willingness to fully experience the depth of their feelings and to express them. They're not always good with expressing them in the most healthy way, because a lot of times they don't know what they're feeling for a while, even though they're feeling all the things, they don't have the words. And if they're not healed, what they will do is that they will allow all of the negative emotions to pile up. And oftentimes they will have like outbursts at the most inappropriate times because they didn't really know, they didn't really have the words to talk about it as it was progressing to that build-up point.